Hi there, Hannah. My name's Kate Davis. Thank you so much for taking the time to ask me a couple of questions. So, as explained in my Facebook message, I thought I'd be better off doing you a video rather than just writing them down. So hopefully you'll find something helpful in the answers that I give you. Okay, so I'll just work my way through them and hopefully make some kind of sense. So question number one, how did you further your training professionally after secondary school? Well, I didn't actually study drama at secondary school, or college in fact. I actually studied graphic arts, fine art and English. And it was only actually after doing my first ever play after college that I got a real taste for performing. But I knew, I got into a show of West Side Story. It was a sort of amateur production, but I played the part of Anita, which was a really cool character to play. Anyway, I fell madly in love with it pretty quickly, and that's when I knew that it was something that I wanted to explore a little bit further. I never really thought about taking it professionally, I just knew that I wanted to carry on doing it. So I went to see the careers advisors, and they'd actually been to see the show in fact, and they said that I should certainly commit a few more years to drama. I also felt like I needed at the time to build up my confidence, because I wasn't the most confident child at secondary school certainly. And being on stage kind of helped with my sort of personal development and stuff. So anyway, so I went to a college after that to do a BTEC National Diploma in Performing Arts, mainly to just get loads of experience and kind of get it out of my system, so to speak. After that, I then fell more deeply into it, and that's when I started to take things seriously, I suppose. I wanted to have a shot at trying to do acting as a line of work. So I knew that I needed a bit more experience, so I then signed up to a higher national diploma in drama specifically. I did that for 2 years, and thankfully came out of it with some really good qualifications. And then I did the same rounds that most people do. I applied for tons of drama schools, and I attended auditions. I got into 2 drama schools, but I didn't take the position at the time because, stupidly perhaps, I wasn't ready to move away. One of them was in Manchester, and I wasn't really ready to move to Manchester. It was just the way it was for me at the time. So I carried on studying here in Bristol. I went to a place called the Tobacco Factory, the Centre for Voice, to study more musical theatre. I wanted to do a bit more singing and dancing. And let me get back on track. Yeah, okay, so about training once you finish studying, I suppose. I think the more work you do, the more you start to take an interest in refining certain skills, or looking more into practitioners that take your interest whilst you're studying. And I particularly liked the style of Meisner acting. I found it really naturalistic, and it made more sense to me than method acting and things that kind of, I don't know, pulled you in a little bit too deeply emotionally, and I was a bit worried about doing that because I don't really use drama for therapy. I do it because I enjoy it. Anyway, so Meisner is something I was interested in, so I actually just started signing up to additional courses in the evenings to practice and just to kind of meet other actors really. So I definitely felt that, and even now, yeah, I've been acting professionally for 13 years, I was still looking to courses every now and then if I feel that there's something that I'm interested in or that I need to brush up on. I think maybe attending a couple of casting director workshops or screen acting would be really beneficial, but I do feel that you learn a lot through actually just going out there and working. So even if you're working on people's student films, indie films, background work, anything that you feel gets you a little bit closer to where you want to be, just sort of turn up on set and do what you can, and try literally, you know, really try to absorb what's going on around you, and ask questions and meet and network with other actors and filmmakers. And I feel like actually you learn a lot more through just being out there and doing things. Okay, question number 2. After professional training, how did you first get yourself out there? Well, I mean, I said I've been acting for 13 years, but it's only really been the last 3 years where I'd say I've kind of got myself out there as such, trying to make a name for myself or try and get more work. I've done a lot more film work in the last couple of years. I suppose I use social media a lot. I'm not sure you have a question on that later on. Well, I'll talk about it now anyway. Social media to me is a really important part of getting work. I use my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, nearly everything to kind of hone in my contacts, how I sell myself. Although I have a lot of personal friends and family on there, I think most people understand now that I mainly use social media to try and get work. So I'll be promoting various roles that I've played. I will kind of sell myself as the kind of roles that I like to play. So for example, I love action women, I love strong women, people like Sarah Connor, Lara Croft. So a lot of my social media will be to do with how I would like to portray this kind of characters. I add tons of people. If I see that they're a filmmaker or a DOP, director, screenwriter, actor, you name it, or if it's someone who hosts networking events, I'll just add them all on my Facebook, get to know them, and you'll soon find it's a really good way to bring everything in closer. So when you first go into acting, you feel like it's a really big well, it is a big industry, but you feel like it's an extremely big industry that you don't stand a hope in hell of making a mark in. And it's only when you start to bridge the gap by making these contacts that you realise that you're not really a small fish in a big pond. You know, you can make a name for yourself. You just have to be willing to network with people and go and meet them. You know, if you see a screenwriter, go and meet up with them for a coffee and talk about the scripts that they're writing, because you never know if that's going to go into production, and you might be the first person in their mind when they're casting for a role. That's just a tiny example, really, but definitely never underestimate the power of social media when it comes to getting work. I'd say that I've probably got the last 10 film jobs just through networking on Facebook, so I definitely recommend it. Any first year after graduating, how hard did you find primary work in acting? I wouldn't say I found it hard. It's been hard to commit to it as a sole line of work because it's very hard to make money in acting at first. I think it's a case of doing what you can to climb the scale, and then you can start refining it. So what I mean by that is, at first you might just want to work on loads of unpaid projects, student films, get your show reel together, get your headshots together, get your experience up there, get a name put out there for yourself. When that starts to happen several years down the line, then you can start to be a little bit more choosy about projects. When people approach you about projects, you can kind of, not so much name your price, but you've got a little bit of clout behind you where you can kind of, well, you know, it's a line of work, you want to be making money off it, so you have to kind of lay that bare. So yeah, it wasn't hard to get work. It was hard to keep it constant enough to make it viable, because I actually jacked in my kind of normal job to pursue acting. But I do think you have to have another way of earning money as well, which is why I'm also a freelance personal trainer. So because I work for myself as a personal trainer, I can pick and choose the hours that I do. So this week in particular, I'm mainly going to be doing my acting work because I'm starting a scare attraction job, and then I'm doing a bit of filming by the weekend. So thankfully my fitness clients are fitting around my schedule, which is amazing. It's a real blessing. My first professional job was straight from college. I went into a musical called Something's Afoot, and we toured throughout the southwest, throughout sort of between October and February, I think. And it was really good. I worked with some people that had been in the industry for 40, 50 years, so I learnt a lot from them. And I just thought it was incredible to get paid money to be doing something I love. So it was amazing. It's a really good show, actually. If you ever see it anywhere, go and watch it. So it's called Something's Afoot, and it's a murder mystery musical. What more do you want? What would you say is average payment for newly graduated actors? What's the going rate for an acting job in general? I think it depends on the type of job. Equity minimum, as far as I know, is £57 a day. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that. It's so subjective. I think it's really important to sort of create your own currency, and what I mean by that is, how much are you prepared to work for? Someone may, for example, offer you a showreel piece, a free headshot shoot, and 20 quid to go and spend 2 or 3 hours doing some acting. If that to you is what you want to do, then go and do it. If you feel that you're worth more, then obviously that's fine too. It's all over the place. Theatre is slightly different rates. Some jobs involve a lot more, not just the actual performing side of it, but things like the actual travelling, setting up rigs and things for touring theatre. Voiceover is, I would say, is probably the best paid part of the job that I've taken on. So I really recommend it. With that, it's quite competitive. You can pretty much name your price if you're lucky. Just find out what the other actors are getting paid if you can, and try and match them or see how you go. Sorry I can't be specific. It's a massive minefield for me, that, the payment aspect. treat every job differently and see what kind of agreement we can come to. I'm sure there's probably a better way of doing it, but that's kind of what's working for me at the moment. So, for example, I did a corporate shoot a few weeks ago, and it paid reasonably well. I suppose I could tell you, I got paid £280, and I was working for 3 hours. So because of that, I kind of had an idea in my head of what I was worth for 3 hours. So when I was approached to do a music video, I pitched the same price to them. They haggled a little bit, but I came quite close to earning about the same. So it's just kind of finding a value, asking for it and seeing if they accept it, really. But make sure if you're going to charge people what you consider to be a fairly high rate of money, then you have to make sure that you can deliver the skills that they expect to see. You know, make sure you're early, turn up on time, sort your costume out, know your lines. It seems so obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people don't. What do you do for work? We're not an acting job. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm also a fitness instructor. The reason why that's good is I can work for myself. I can pick and choose my hours. I don't work in a gym. I work outdoors, or I go to clients' houses. So I basically decide how many hours work I do every week. I also do. I do a lot of social media promotional stuff in between acting work to get the next job. So I think that a large part of my job is actually finding the next job. I sometimes do games testing. I sign up to websites where you play test people's iPad games or phone games, and you get paid usually around £7 for a quarter of an hour playthrough of a game. So if you play it for an hour or so, you can earn a little bit more, but that's quite good fun, and it gives me something to do whilst I'm at home browsing for castings and things. And spending time, I just concentrate on keeping fit, because I think it's important to be fit for my work. I like to be in good shape. I also like it when a role that I've got requires a certain shape. I was always inspired by Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, how she works out and how she got so muscular for the second part, and that's the kind of thing that inspires me. So I'll take my knowledge as a fitness instructor and go and spend some time sort of looking after myself and keeping fit, so that when I am on set, I look the part, if that's what's required. How do you go about collecting contacts? Okay, so definitely social media. The only mistake I made was using my personal account really to connect with people on Facebook, but I started doing that a couple of years ago now, so it's too late to go back. But much like how we met Hannah, it's, you know, you just see that someone has a mutual friend who's also in the performing world, and you add them, and if you're lucky, you kind of strike up a bit of a conversation, and you can find out when they're posting castings. I mean, if you get enough people on there that make film, your whole Facebook newsfeed can start to resemble a free casting website, so that's really cool as well. Regarding work that I've got a lot of good work off Twitter, and that's through, I suppose it's a social media equivalent of word of mouth. You know, I've done voiceover work, and the people that I worked for kindly retweeted it, shared it with other, this was for video games, so they shared it with other video game creators, and before you know it, I had other companies contacting me and asking if I was willing to work for them. So so just making loads of contacts, adding people. Don't be afraid to add people. You know, if people aren't quite giving you what you want, or if they seem a bit off key, then you can always delete them. So it's worth giving people a shot, and it's a good chance to see their work as well, because a lot of filmmakers in particular are very proud people. They're very proud of the work that they're coming up with. So if you take a genuine interest in their project, like, so you watch some of their behind the scenes, you check out all the development. When you do go to audition, you've got something to talk to them about, and they know that you're not just an actor trying to find work, you're someone who actually cares about their project. How much contracted and freelance work did you get in your first year? Well, my first year was quite some time ago. I say when I did Something's Afoot, that was back in 2004, so it's quite a while ago now. I didn't get a lot. I mean, that took me a couple of months, and then I needed to go and get more sort of general work, so I worked as a support worker for a while. But I'd say, let's say the last 3 years as being more my professional work years, because that's when I've been the busiest. I think in 2013, sorry about that, my I spoke for so long my video cut out. Let's have a look. I think I was saying about how much work I got in the first year of filming. Yeah, a lot of that was like a snowball effect. Like, the more work I was doing and the more I was talking about my work and posting photos and videos and stuff, people just started to pay more interest in me, and they were actually getting to the point where they were not just asking me to audition, but offering me parts just based on nothing. which was really crazy. But again, it's the power of social media. You know, I get to the point now where, if I'm lucky, people will just send me a script and say, would you be willing to be in my production, which I just wouldn't have had years ago. Sorry, I turned the telly on. So yeah, it's just by appearing busy, you then become more busy. So I found that really really cool and really interesting. This year, I've still done quite a lot of projects, but I've been far more selective in terms of I've had to make more money, so I've had to pick and choose the projects that I decide to commit my time to. You know, and I'd say in that respect, you're better going for the less fun jobs, but the more financially viable ones, like corporate and voiceover. Although voiceover is enjoyable, I have to admit. And my next job is a scare attraction job, which is completely unlike anything else I've done, but it should be good. Did you struggle with anything in your first year? I think most performers, or most people that are taking a risk to go into a profession like acting, just struggle with confidence, really. Just not just confidence in their ability, but confidence in the industry and where they stand. There's a lot of people who are taught at school and college that it's a really tough industry and they don't stand much chance of getting anywhere, and I think that in itself is quite damaging. So I think, yeah, it's just lack of confidence and not really knowing where to go to look for work or how to kind of establish yourself. But that does change, I promise. How do I promote myself? Well, as I said, I use social media. I like to kind of give people, although I can play all kinds of parts, and I do enjoy all kinds of parts, I quite enjoy branding. I recommend actually, there's a casting director called Amy Jo Bergman who puts videos up every now and then on Facebook and social media, and she gives tips on what to tell actors to do. So I really recommend her videos, but she specifically talks about branding. So it's not the same as typecasting. If I can brand myself as an action girl, like I said, I can put pictures of myself dressed up as Lara Croft, covered in mud and blood and brandishing weapons and posing and doing this, that, the other. Doesn't mean to say that's all I can do as an actor, but by putting that kind of stuff out there quite a lot, you do tend to be the first person that pops into people's head when they're casting for those kind of roles. So it's just kind of whacking a little bit of something out there that makes people think of you. People also know that I'm interested in horror. I talk about horror quite a lot, so when they're casting for horror films, I tend to get a pretty swift look in at the script on that. So yeah, it's just about not being afraid to say what it is you want, what you are, and hoping that people approach you with things, really. Don't be afraid of self-promotion. For every single person that kind of knocks it and says that it's vain or arrogant or whatever, you know, if you don't do it, people are not going to come looking for you. You're not going to get a casting director or a filmmaker going on, you know, I'm really hoping to find such and such today. You've got to put it in their face, and eventually they'll go, okay, we'll give you an opportunity. So that's my opinion anyway. That's what works for me. It might not be the same for everyone. How do you hear about and sign up to auditions? Okay, so I have an agent who looks for auditions for me via Spotlight. I do occasionally look on there myself, but I do trust him to make the right choices for me. That's why I took him on, or he took me on, why we worked together so well, because at my first meeting we discussed the kind of roles and jobs that I want to be taking on, and we have a really good understanding of each other, and so I trust him to look for castings on my behalf on the Spotlight, which is the sort of, I guess, most professional casting website in the UK. But if I particularly, you know, if I was just starting out and I just wanted some experience, I'd probably try things like Casting Call Pro and Star Now, IMDb, and social media again. So yeah, I mean those are the kind of proper ways of doing things. But I say I tend to just ask people on Facebook, are you casting for anything? If you are, here's my show role. But yeah, it might take a little while for that to work for everyone. Any extra tips for an aspiring actor? Oh God, 1,000,001 tips really, and so hard to kind of put it all into a tiny video. But I really believe that you can't let anyone talk you out of doing the things that you want to do. Yes, it is a tough profession. Yes, it is really hard to get constant work. Yes, it is hard to become the next Eddie Redmayne or what have you, but also you've all got as much shot as each other. You can constantly keep learning, networking, meeting people, refining, trying, practicing, making mistakes, doing things brilliantly, reworking your show reel, reworking your photos. Just don't stop if it's something you enjoy.